Does rewarding kids with candy, gold stars, or even money teach them how to behave? To answer this question, we have to understand the science of motivation, the real-world application of these principles, and how rewards affect kids in the long run. After all, the vast majority of parents use rewards to get their kids to do things. But in recent years, there have been many studies that have led researchers to doubt the efficacy of rewards. So why do so many parents use rewards, and what can we do instead? Well, to get to the bottom of this controversy, I spent weeks reading up on the literature and digging into the science. And today, I'll show you what I've learned, including the 5 things you must understand about rewards. Behaviorism. Almost everyone accepts it and lives by it, but what is it and where did it come from? Behaviorism is the idea that behavior can be explained by conditioning. Basically that if you reward someone for doing something you want them to do, they'll do more of it. And if you punish them for doing something you don't want them to do, they'll do less of it. Since the 19th century, psychologists had long guessed that conditioning played a key role in behavior. Then in the 1940s, a guy named E.F. Skinner finally tested this theory with an experiment. He made a clear glass cube and put a rat in it, and he found that he could teach rats to press a lever every time they wanted food. And so because of experiments like this, behaviorism became widely accepted, and it made sense. It seemed intuitive and people were ready to believe it. And in many ways, they already did. In fact, the American Psychological Association ranks E.F. Skinner as the most influential psychologist of the 20th century, even surpassing Sigmund Freud and Jean Piaget. And in practice, the vast majority of people use the methods and strategies that he suggests. Teachers reward their kids with A's and gold stars. Parents give their kids M&Ms for using the potty. Bosses give employees bonuses based on their performance. And even the first assumption of economics is that people respond to incentives. But there have been some experiments that have led researchers to doubt this widely held philosophy. In one experiment, college students were broken into 2 groups. One group was told they would be paid to complete a puzzle. The other group of college students was just told to complete the puzzle with no promise of reward. What researchers found is that after they stopped requiring them to do the puzzle, and they were given a few options of activities to do, the students that were not rewarded were more likely to continue working on the puzzle than the students who were rewarded. Another experiment set out to find if these results could be replicated with children. So they divided the group of kids into 2 groups. One group was rewarded for playing an educational video game, and the other group was not. After the kids had received their reward for playing the game, they told the kids that they could play any game they would like now. The kids who had been rewarded were actually less likely to play that same educational video game that they had been rewarded to play than the students who were never rewarded at all. They were even less likely than they themselves were to play that same game before they had been rewarded. There's also some research that suggests that being rewarded makes you more dependent on extrinsic motivation in general. Researchers have even tried rewarding with all kinds of different things. Candy, money, awards, gold stars, A's, and they all have invariably been found to have measurably detrimental effects. Rewards not only change how likely we are to do an activity, but they also change the reason we do it, the way we do it, and the attitude that we take while doing it. And for each of these, the change is for the worse. So why don't rewards work the way we expect? Why is it that it seems that rewards motivate people in the moment, but in the long term, they're demotivated? Author and influential parenting commentator Alfie Kohn outlines 5 key points in his book, Punished by Rewards. First point, rewards punish. Punishment and rewards are really just 2 sides of the same coin. Rewards say, if you do this, then you'll get that. And punishment is, if you do this, this will happen to you. They both seek to control and manipulate surface behavior rather than actually fostering a genuine understanding of why an activity is intrinsically valuable. Second point, rewards undermine relationships. When kids are rewarded for doing things, they're also not rewarded when they don't. Kids are desperate for their parents' approval, and so this leads to a really high pressure to perform, which can lead to perfectionism, which leads to the next point. Rewards discourage risk-taking. When kids miss out on rewards when they fail, they become afraid to try again. And failure is an essential part of the learning process. You have to be able to fail if you're ever going to get better. And if you ever want to get good at something, you have to be okay with failing a lot of times along the way. Think about what it would be like to try to learn a new instrument. You're going to be really bad for a really long time. It's going to take a long time of practicing guitar or piano before you'll be ready to get on stage and perform in front of people. And just like with musical instruments, it's the same with every aspect of things that we learn. Learning how to behave is a skill. Learning how to have self-control and to be responsible are skills that kids need to learn. And we have to be patient with them while they make mistakes and while they fail along the way. And so punishing them or rewarding them for doing what we want them or don't want them to do is just manipulating their behavior, and it's not actually teaching them those skills that they need to learn. Rewards ignore reasons. So you might ask, well, what do I do when my kid is coming out of his bedroom for the third time this night? Here are a few approaches. Behaviorist approach number one. As a parent, you could say, if you don't go back in your room right now and stay there until morning, no TV for the rest of the week. Behaviorist approach number two. If you stay in your bedroom all night until morning for the next 3 nights, I'll buy you that teddy bear you've been wanting. The non-behaviorist wonders how you could possibly suggest a solution without knowing what the problem really is. How do you know why the kid is popping out of their room? They could be hungry. They could be wanting to talk. They could be hearing a bunch of noises outside of their room and not wanting to miss out on the excitement. Maybe they felt like they haven't had a chance to cuddle with mommy and daddy yet. Maybe something happened earlier in the day and they want to talk it out and process. Maybe there's monsters under the bed. If you don't know what the problem is and why they're popping out of their room, how could you possibly propose a solution? The problem with rewards is that they don't get to the root cause of the misbehavior. Rewards and punishments are not actually solutions because they never look below the surface. They're shortcuts. Even when we think the cause of the misbehavior is obvious, oftentimes we're wrong. Consider a child who eats candy that he knows he's not allowed to eat. The parent could assume he already knows why the kid ate the candy, because candy tastes good and he wanted it. But maybe his lunch at school didn't fill him enough. Maybe he has low blood sugar. Maybe he doesn't have access to healthy snacks. Maybe he just wants attention from his parents, and this is a surefire way to get it. Or maybe he's reaching for something forbidden to express his anger about something else. Rewards kill intrinsic motivation. For this one, let me tell you a story. There's an old man who would walk one stretch of sidewalk every day. On that stretch of sidewalk, there were some kids who would mock him and jeer at him. They would call him old and wrinkly and bald and ugly. So one day the old man stopped and talked to the kids. And he told them, if you come back tomorrow and insult me, I'll give each of you $1. The kids loved this idea. So the next day, when the old man was walking down the sidewalk, the kids, sure enough, were there. And they insulted him and mocked him. And so he walks up to them and hands each of them $1. And he tells them, if you come back tomorrow, I'll give each of you $0.25. And the kids, they thought, well, $0.25, I'll take $0.25, sure. So the next day, when the old man is walking down the sidewalk, they, sure enough, insult him and mock him. And so he hands each of them $0.25. Then he tells them, if you come back tomorrow and insult me, I'll give each of you $0.01. And they said, $0.01? Are you kidding me? It is not worth $0.01. And the next day, sure enough, when he walked down that stretch of sidewalk, they were not there. So why did the kids stop doing something they already enjoyed doing when they had previously been rewarded for it? Well, because when you're rewarded for doing something, the calculation in your mind of whether it's worth it changes. They stopped thinking about whether the activity was intrinsically valuable, and they started thinking about whether the effort required to do the activity was worth the reward. So when they were only offered $0.01 to do it, that's a lot of effort to go out of their way to do for only $0.01. So it wasn't worth it. And so they stopped. Researchers have even found that a one-time reward for doing an activity can kill interest in the rewarded behavior. Consider how kids' perspectives on reading might change if a library offered them a slice of pizza for every single book that they read one summer. The kids will stop reading because they want to learn or they want to be entertained. And they'll start reading just because of the pizza. So reading is just a chore. It becomes a job. And so they want to get done with the job as fast as possible. And they're not actually interested in what the value of the job is. They just want to get it done with as quickly as possible. And then after the summer is over and that program ends, the research shows that sentiment towards reading will have a lasting effect. Here's one quote from Alfie Kohn. What rewards do, and what they do with devastating effectiveness, is smother people's enthusiasm for activities that they might otherwise enjoy. Any reward has the power to make any task seem less interesting. So if the idea is that kids will only continue doing the rewarded behavior as long as the rewards keep coming, can you just keep giving rewards indefinitely? Well, a couple problems emerge with the strategy. One is that as soon as you stop giving them rewards, like if your kids move out or go to college or something, then they will have no intrinsic motivation to do those activities. Another problem is you'll need to constantly be increasing the size or the frequency of the rewards because the same reward will be less interesting over time. So for example, if a teacher said, if everyone behaves until recess, you can stay outside for an extra 5 minutes. Well, after she makes that promise a few times, the extra 5 minutes is not going to sound so enticing. So she's going to have to offer an extra 10 minutes. And then that won't be very motivating. And an extra 15 and an extra 20 until the kids are outside for hours. So clearly, it's just not a sustainable solution. And so here's one question that every parent needs to answer. What kind of people do we want our kids to become? Almost every parent, I'm sure, would affirm that they want their kids to be confident and self-assured, yet open to criticism. They want them to be capable of succeeding in life, yet able to question authority and think in a creative manner. They want their kids to be self-reliant and responsible, but also socially skilled and caring. In light of these goals, the unsettling truth is that rewards are at best worthless and at worst destructive at helping children develop these skills and values. What rewards do produce is temporary compliance and obedience. But if we are ultimately concerned with the kind of people that our children become, then there are no shortcuts. Good values have to be grown from the inside out. And like Alfie Kohn says, no behavioral manipulation ever helped a child develop a commitment to becoming a caring and responsible person. So you may be thinking, if rewards don't shape people into the kind of people that we want to be, what can we do? Do we have to just let our kids do whatever they want? Well, I made a video on just that, so make sure to watch that next to learn exactly how to have win-win interactions with your kids when they misbehave.